Hi, this is Nick Coman with Dragonfly Creative, and today we're going to be talking about bunnies. This is something that I learned later on in my sewing career, and it's made a huge difference, and I learned it from a bunch of quilters. This is called a sewing bunny. I don't know why they call it that. Some people call it a lead, some people just call it that little scrappy fabric thing that you stick under the presser foot first. What it is scraps of fabric that are folded. I use about 4 thicknesses, and you put them in under the presser foot just prior to inserting your fashion fabric or your quilt fabric, and then you put it in afterwards when it's following the fabric out. I'll show you on this. So what that does is it makes it easier to feed fabric under the presser foot and to get the fabric out without having those weird little threads on the end, and it also keeps the fabric from being pushed down into the throat plate. Let me show you. So I just put this right under the presser foot and I put it down, and I'm going to sew for a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to put this and I'm going to sew basically right till it's at the front of the presser foot, and then I'm going to put my fabric, I'm bumping my fabric right up next to it, and then I'm going to go ahead and feed my fabric underneath, and the bunny comes out afterwards and it's still connected to the piece of fabric that I'm sewing. Then I go ahead and sew whatever seam it is that I'm sewing. Here I'm understitching a ruffle. Now I'm coming to the end of my seam, so I've got another bunny here. I usually have 3 or 4, and when you start a new one, start it wide enough so that after you've stitched on it a few times, you can just cut this in half. The bunny doesn't have to be real big, it just has to be enough that you're able to grab it and stitch onto it. So here I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to butt that right up to the end of my stitching, and I'm going to feed it under just like I'm feeding the rest of my fabric. And then I stitch right onto my bunny, and then I'm able to go ahead and clip right at the end, and then my bunny's ready to start the next seam, and then I clip this one off, and this one's ready to put on the end of the garment. And then I've just had a real nice seam stitched, but see, I have no unusual threads at the end, and it stitches all the way off without having any loose spaces or wondering where you start or stop. Now I want to show you what it does when you're stitching onto a lightweight piece of fabric. It's very, very helpful because it doesn't push that fabric down into the throat plate. So I'm going to just bump that right up underneath there and just hold those two together, and I just stitched right onto that lightweight piece of fabric without having any sort of problem whatsoever. Okay, and as we go, we'll just stitch on down to the end, and then I'm getting my other bunny ready, and when it comes up close to the presser foot, I grab that bunny, I'm going to bump it right up against the end of the fabric, and then go ahead, and if you miss or if it doesn't go in, you just put the needle in the down position, pop that right in under there up against the fabric, and then stitch right onto that bunny. Okay, and I lift that up, take that off. I've got the bunny on both ends. I'm just going to go ahead and clip that off at right at the seam or the stitch, and then clip this one off, and we're good to go. So that's bunnies. Thank you so much for watching. This is Nick Coman with Dragonfly Creative.